Hi, this is Robert from the Open Eye with another edition of Talk to the Rock. Today we're going to talk about how to meditate using stones. And I'm not going to go through the whole process of meditating, but basically, with meditating, you watch your thoughts leave, is the best way to put it. You sit down, you decide you're going to meditate, you let the thoughts that are in your mind just dissolve and pass away. You don't grab onto any of them. You just keep letting them go until your mind gets calmer and calmer and calmer to it's not thinking anything at all. Um, when I meditate with rocks, I go through that process. But once I'm into a state of beginning meditation, I focus on the rock and I ask the spirit of the stone to make its presence known to me, or to stimulate a chakra or whatever it is that I want to do with the rock. And the trick is not to focus really hard on listening to the rock or trying to perceive something from the rock. The trick is to focus on how the energy of the stone is making you feel. And if it's stimulating the heart chakra, allow your mind to sink into that particular feeling, or sink to the root chakra if that's what's going on, or rise to the crown chakra and above, whatever the case may be. But again, the trick is how does it feel, and focusing without words on the feeling of the stone. Now, I've heard people say that they can see ghosts and specters and other astral things out of the peripheral vision, out of the corner of their eyes. And that's true. And with meditating with rocks, you can hear them kind of out of the corner of your hearing, if that makes sense. As you're focusing on the feeling, you can hear an auditory response from the spirit of the stone, which I think is really cool. The trouble is, it much like that periphery vision, it's hard to directly remember what you've seen, and the moment you go to focus on it, the image is gone. And that's very much the same with listening to a rock. You kind of have to hear the words and let some part of you process it that isn't part of your conscious awareness. So that's one aspect of listening to the rock. Actually, that's two. You feel what the rock is doing, and then you're listening for words as well. And there's a third thing that happens where your mind or soul or being, whatever it is interpreting that information for you. Or maybe even your spirit guides are telling you what's going on. And that's another level of listening. So it's really about paying attention, um, and figuring out, well, not even figuring out, just paying attention to the feeling and then letting everything else happen without grasping onto anything. Those thoughts that come from you are going to be easiest to remember, followed by the thoughts, words, and images of your spirit guides. And maybe even, I guess, number three would be any um, visual, or at least for me, any visual of the actual spirit of the rock. And lastly is the full auditory experience. Like, I can see the spirit and I can have a conversation with the spirit, but that's a mental process. And like I said, there's probably three in the rankings as far as what I can remember when I'm done. The auditory thing is a whole nother level. And much like a dream, it's really hard to focus on, at least for me at this time. We'll see what happens later. As an aside, in my last video, we talked about using a puff light for dreams. In the meditation I did today, I used stillbite, which is something that stimulates your heart chakra to expand. And I just purchased some stones that are a combination of stilbite and apophyllite. So I'm very interested in learning how those two minerals work together. So that's it for today's Talk to the Rock. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe and come and visit us at the Open Eye.